divorce profoundly impacts a person's life before and after the event, with the extent of the changes hinging on the circumstances of the split. In my case, it was my wife's infidelity. I had always been a kind and honest person, doing my best to maintain integrity. However, my wife, in her pursuit of new experiences, completely upended my life. It was a situation that left me feeling devastated. By the time I arrived, he was already deep into his fourth or fifth beer. I had been delayed by something unexpected. Sliding onto the stool beside him, I pointed to him, and soon another beer was placed in front of him. I ordered a Boilermaker, needing something strong to warm me up quickly in the miserable, sideways rain and biting wind outside. The shot of brandy dropped into the mug went down fast, and the next one even easier. After that, I switched back to just beer, content with the warm glow I had achieved, and decided to sip this one slowly until I left. Tony was beginning to lose control, so I got us a table and ordered some food, urging him to pause his drinking for a while. I wanted him to be clear-headed for our conversation. He wolfed down a dozen hot wings and a large order of fries, clearly having skipped lunch. I knew he wouldn't find her in an hour, and he didn't. She had been right there with me and then vanished. I checked with her mother, her friends, her co-workers. Nobody knew anything. He paused and took a swig of beer. Do you think Chris would cheat on me? We've only been married for a year. Could she really do something like that? I let him ramble for a minute before I stopped him. Tony, be honest here. Isn't that how you got her? His mouth hung open for a moment before he started ranting. You jerk. How could you say something like that? I tried to maintain a serious expression, hoping he wouldn't see my eyes through the dim lighting and alcoholic haze. I can say it, Tony, because it's true. You were both married when you got together, to each other's best friends at the time. There's a pattern here. If she'll cheat on one husband, what's stopping her from doing it again? She's had some practice, now she's probably pretty good at hiding it. He was listening intently, and you could almost see the idea taking hold in his muddled brain. I pressed on. Maybe she's been spending a lot of time with friends. Does she often go on girls' nights out? Ever wonder where she is when you're bowling and she doesn't answer the house phone, or when her cell goes straight to voicemail and she calls you back a few minutes later, out of breath? It's all easily explainable, motive and opportunity, Tony. If she wants to cheat, she'll find a way, and there's nothing you can do about it. No, he whined, holding his head. She loves me, says the man who was all over Gloria when I walked in. Let me guess, you just needed a shoulder to cry on. Gloria was known as a person who was easy to take advantage of. She had her own problems. She was attractive and definitely smart, but it was hard for her to say no. She flirted with me, and unlike most of those who just met her at a bar, got drunk, and took her to a cheap place, I actually asked her out on a normal date. I bought her dinner, took her dancing, and at the end of the evening, I took her home. We exchanged a couple of tender kisses, and I left. The next night, she attacked me. Why did you leave? Because the date is over. By the way, I had a really good time. I would love to do it again sometime. I'll agree whenever you ask, she said with a grin. But you know what I mean. Do you understand what I really wanted? Why? I asked, clearly confused. Why did you want to sleep with me? Because I invited you to a restaurant and tried to entertain you? Because you thought that was what I was trying to achieve? That you felt obligated to me? The news is that I like meeting someone I'm interested in. Let's see if we work together. If I want to go beyond the first date, I'm 32, and my casual dating days are long gone. If that's all you want, then every guy in this bar, and some women, would love to meet you. But it's not about me, honey. Are you sure you're a man? You're not a romance novel hero, brought to life by some strange curse or magic. Are you just a guy? I laughed. Maybe a little unusual, but still just a guy. We talked a little more before we broke up. She asked me a question that I could hardly answer. What's wrong with me, Chill? Why am I doing all this? And please, be honest. I can take it. I sighed. Han, I don't know you very well, but I'll tell you what I think, based on what I do know. I believe something in your past made you insecure and damaged your self-image. That might be why you sleep with anyone who asks. You're an attractive woman, Gloria, but sitting in this bar is taking a toll on you. Not to hurt your feelings, but you've gained a bit of weight, and your skin is suffering from a lack of sunlight. I watched her face as my words sank in. Strangely, she didn't look hurt, she seemed more thoughtful. Here's Dr. Chill's advice: spend less time in bars, join a gym or an exercise class, maybe start running, spend more time outside, learn to say no, and, Gloria, do it for yourself, not because someone else tells you to. Learn to love yourself before trying to find love with someone else. She nodded a couple of times, stood up, kissed me on the cheek, and left. I didn't see her again for 2 weeks. Turning my attention back to Tony, I thought I should have been more empathetic with him, having been cheated on before. For years later, it still hurt. I bet that's what she told her first husband every time she came home after spending time with you. She might even have meant it, who knows for sure. You probably told your wife the same thing back then, maybe you both really believed it at the time. When did it stop being a fling and start becoming a relationship? I had him reeling, and I wasn't letting up, even as painful memories resurfaced. He needed to see the kind of person he was. Her husband worked so damn much. I mean, he was my best friend, but he was so serious all the time. My wife wasn't quite as bad, but she sometimes had to work long hours. I'd call, hoping to get Charlie, but he wouldn't be there, and we'd end up talking. We started eating out together every once in a while. Charlie knew about it, we weren't trying to hide anything, and he actually thanked me. Jen, his wife, was up for that promotion, so she put in the hours and did the traveling, even though she hated it. She was fine with us spending time together, saying she knew I was safe from temptation if I was with her best friend. He paused, a slight grin on his face. The first time was an accident, we got smashed. I couldn't even drive, so we had to take a cab back to her house. We opened another bottle of wine, and by the time it was finished, we were all over each other. God, did we feel awful the next morning. We swore it would never happen again and that we would never tell. We lasted about 4 months before it happened again. Jen was in Cleveland, and Charlie was in Atlanta. We didn't even leave the house. As soon as we saw each other, I grabbed her hand and led her into the bedroom. She was great, man. As soon as the floodgates opened, we started meeting whenever they were in town, had long lunches, and spent the afternoon at their house because she wasn't working. We were careless, and one day they both caught us. Jen was screaming, he was screaming, Chris was crying, and I was being stupid. I was about to hit Charlie when Jen hit me with her purse. It seemed to me that it was stuffed with stones, but these were her usual things. She managed to dislocate my jaw. It still hurts when the weather is cold and wet. He paused, rubbing his jaw, lost in memories. What happened then? I asked, already knowing the answer. In short, we all got divorced. I ended up losing a lot in the settlement because this isn't a no-fault state, and Chris didn't fare much better. She got 40%, while he got 60%. He insisted they sell the house unless she could buy his share, knowing how much she loved it and the time she spent making it a showcase. She couldn't afford it, so the house was sold. She also received minimal alimony for 3 years unless she remarried. The business was protected by a prenup, but you guys told me you got married less than a year later, I interrupted, as he paused to take a drink. Didn't that cost her the alimony? It did, but it wasn't much to begin with. I had a good job, and she went back to work. We had a decent living, not the lifestyle we had before, but our bills were paid and we had a little left over. We're planning to buy a house next year. Good for you guys, I said heartily. I had a house once years ago. Ownership is a beautiful thing.